guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new I Don't Work Here Lady content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, I Do Work Here, but also I Live Here, and this isn't PetSmart Lady. Recently, I have begun a dog walking and pet sitting business that I run out of my house with express permission from my landlord. I've worked with animals for years and I'm grateful to finally be able to do it for a halfway decent living. That being said, I've been much busier than I anticipated, and as such I've been a little stressed about overextending myself. I even had a nightmare about forgetting that I had to watch a dog, and the dog was left alone at their house for several days. Even though it was just a nightmare, this prompted me to get more serious about my organization and scheduling so I wouldn't miss anything. Nowadays, my schedule is rock solid and I've been super on top of it. I only say that so you guys can understand the immense confusion I felt when my doorbell rang at 2 p.m. on Monday and I heard a dog barking outside. I get my dogs calmed down and answer the door. On my doorstep is an elderly woman, maybe 80 years old, holding a very cute West Highland Terrier. For anyone not familiar, they're the dog on the Cesar dog food package. I'm honestly so confused by her being there that my mouth does not form words. I just sort of stand there, opening and closing my mouth like a fish out of water, while my brain is just screaming, "You forgot. You forgot." After a moment she graciously saves me from myself and talks first. I'll refer to her as Lol, for Lil Old Lady. Lol. Hello, I'm Lil Old Lady and I'm here to drop my dog off for boarding. At this point, I'm almost positive that my nightmares have literally come true and I have straight up deleted a dog from my short-term memory. But as I'm racking my brain, I cannot remember ever seeing this dog or woman before. Me. Hi. Who is this little guy? Lol. This is Chico. I was hoping to leave him with you for the weekend while I visit my grandson. Okay. Hoping. That's an interesting word. Now I'm less anxious but more confused. Me. Okay? Have we spoken about Chico before? Lol. Oh, no. But your neighbor Laura said you watched dogs so I just brought him over. Okay. Now this is making more sense. Laura was my previous neighbor who had recently moved out. I had watched her dogs dozens of times, and she was always very kind to give my name out to people who were looking for dog sitters. Sometimes, however, she did treat me as on call, in the sense that she would call me as she was pulling out of her driveway to tell me she was leaving for the weekend and I would need to watch the dogs. She would play it off like she was so frazzled and forgot, but it started to get old after the third or fourth time. At this point, I have a lil old lady with her energetic dog on my porch, and still more questions than answers. So I invite her in while I try to get to the bottom of it. Come to find out, Lol was a friend of Laura's mother, whom I had never met. Laura had a couple of my business cards at her house, and apparently the last time her mother was visiting, she took a couple of them to give them to her friends. Apparently, Laura inherited her entitlement from her mother, as her mother told Lol I was available anytime for dog sitting. Literally anytime. Worse yet, because Laura was my next door neighbor, Laura's mom figured out my address and gave it to Lol. Because of that behavior, Lol had the impression that I was a dog boarding facility and she was just as confused as I was to arrive at a normal-looking house. After we got it all explained, Lol and I had a pretty big laugh about it. Lol was super apologetic and sweet, but I knew it really wasn't her fault so there was no harm done from her. She was just a sweet old lady who got a little confused. Unfortunately, because I was already booked, I couldn't watch Chico. But good news. Lol determined she could just visit her grandson this weekend, and I went ahead and booked her for it. Chico and my dogs had plenty of time to socialize while Lol and I were chatting, and they were becoming fast friends. I think I may have just fallen backwards into a great client. Still, I was a little miffed, so I called Laura to please ask her mother to not tell people that they can just come by anytime. Laura was legitimately confused as to why it was an issue. After a few minutes of going around in circles, I simply said I can't watch any dogs that I don't know and left it at that. While I wish that was the end of it, 2 days later, Wednesday, yesterday at the time of this post, Laura calls me to tell me she has just left her house, and could I please watch the dogs? I gently remind her that she had just moved 3 hours away and I was no longer her neighbor. She just gave a half-hearted, "Oh," and hung up. God bless her. The next story is titled, Punched in the Chest at Walmart. I am a severe asthmatic and recently I had to begin treatment to clear my airways of gunk. Currently taking medication to help, but it is causing a lot of chest pain on the side and causing a cough. I left home to go to work early in an attempt to see my girlfriend but found myself out of my work drinks, so a Walmart trip was needed. I got ready and into my work uniform, a light blue shirt with my work logo and job title stitched to the upper left in clear white letters, pants and black shoes. I also had on a dark green sweat jacket on cause cold. I got to Walmart roughly 10 o'clock, put my mask on and hurry in to get in and out. I hurry to the drink aisle and start looking for cherry soda. A lady comes up from behind me and grabs my arm and starts to pull. I've been looking for one of you a-holes for 20 minutes now, take me to insert electronics section item here. Me, a bit taken aback, slide my arm out of her hand and politely inform I do not work at Walmart. She did not like that and started yelling about me being disrespectful and how I am dressed like I am an employee. I start paying little attention to her and found my drink. I start walking away, but this lady grabs me again and starts yelling louder. You little duck, pay attention to me or you are going to hell. You better help me or I will go to your manager. I roll my eyes and say, ma'am, as I said before, I do not work here, please leave me alone, I am in a hurry. She did not like this. She yells, liar. I point at the words stitched on my shirt. She then lets me go and me thinking that's it I say, I would help you find one but I am in a hurry. I try to leave again but she gets in front of me and says something that I don't recall because next thing I know she punched my chest, hard. Struggling to breathe already, I black out and drop the original drink. I come to in front of the store and the lady and the store manager arguing with the police already called. The manager noticed I was moving. Son, can you stay? The police are on the way. Are you okay? I struggle to answer and just trying to catch my breath. I just look at the manager. Police come and around that time I am able to talk a bit but get winded just talking. The manager shows the camera footage to the police and I am asked if I wanted to press charges alongside the manager. I say, no, I have a bit going on. I just want to get my items and go. I know, stupid. The manager gets an employee to help me get my items. I see the puddle I made. I then get my items, pay and leave the store. Sadly, it was 10 minutes before my shift, so I had to go straight to work. Update. Putting this here for those who see this in the future. I called the Walmart and spoke to the manager who gave me the officer contact info. I then contacted the officer and pressed charges. Explanation why I didn't at the time this happened. I couldn't breathe well. I also wanted to take the medication to get me stable as quickly as I could. I agree with why I should have pressed charges immediately. Also, yes, I am drinking the cherry soda because cherry cough syrup does not taste good, nor does it taste like cherry. The next story is titled, I Don't Work There, Karen. After I retired, I took a part-time job at a tool store, mostly to get the employee discount. This store was right next door to a popular farm and ranch supply store. There was a deep overhang in front of the stores, and the other store kept large bags of animal bedding and such beneath the overhang, but only on their side. One day, after my shift ended, I was hanging out in front of the store before bicycling home, talking on my phone. Karen pulls up in a nice SUV with a trailer, shoves a receipt in my face, and rudely demands I load a dozen bags of animal bedding for her. I tell her I do not work at the farm and ranch supply store, but will gladly call them to ask for help for her. Now, to be fair, the tool store and the supply store both had blue shirts, but each had the store names prominently embroidered on the front. The supply store employees were almost uncomfortably clean-cut, and I had rather longish hair and a huge mustache. She starts screaming, she is in a hurry, she is almost out of gas, I'm wearing a blue shirt, yada, yada, yada. I politely point to the name on my shirt and again say I do not work for the supply store, and it is not my job to load their products. Again I offer to call them and ask for help for her. She storms off towards the front door to the supply store, yelling about how I should get a haircut, and she is going to get me fired. I said, good luck with that, lady, which really pissed her off. Her SUV was idling rather roughly this whole time. Eventually, she comes back with one of the managers of the supply store, and an employee who loads the bags of animal bedding. The manager is trying to explain to her that, no, I do not work for them and should not be loading their products. About this time, you guessed it, her SUV dies for lack of gas. She goes back inside, and I see her leave with a plastic gas can and start hoofing it to the gas station a couple blocks away. Meantime, her SUV is still switched on, and her dome light is getting dimmer, and dimmer, and dimmer. I guess someone could have shut the driver's door, but I sure didn't feel like doing it. Having nothing better to do, I stayed to watch the show I knew was about to unfold. After a good hour, she staggers back with the full 5-gallon can. I do not think I would have cared to carry it a couple blocks. It took her a while, but she finally figured out how to pour it into the SUV. As she was pouring it, she was screaming that this was all somehow my fault. Then she tries to start the SUV and of course, it will not turn over. Some kindly old man stops and asks if she needs a jump, and gets out his jumper cables. After a few minutes, the SUV turns over, but will not start. It seems it is one of those that needs a fuse removed and the engine cranked for a while to pressurize the fuel injection lines after running out of gas. I try to tell her this, but she starts screaming at me again, and called me some rather uncomplimentary names. Fine, Karen, call AAA or a tow truck. I have used up my good deeds for the day. When a tow truck finally arrives, the driver hooks up his jumper cables, removes the fuse, and cranks the engine for a while. He replaces the fuse, and starts it, to the accompaniment of huge clouds of smoke. He smells the gas can, and it seems she had bought diesel fuel instead of gasoline. He tells her he will need to tow the SUV and it will need the entire fuel system flushed. She screams that I should pay for it, since it was still somehow my fault. With that, I headed for home on my bicycle, telling her, "Have a nice day." The next story is titled, My Dog Adoption Process. So approximately 6 months ago I decided to adopt my elderly neighbor a dog after his passed away. He lives alone with no family. So I spent a few days driving all over the state to different shelters to look at dogs. I went to one about 90 minutes away in my usual attire, khakis and a polo. As we're in the lobby waiting for a worker, I heard a guy asking questions about dogs and how much longer the wait would be, stuff like that. I assumed he was talking to one of the workers and continued to sit there in silence minding my own. I felt an aggressive tap on my shoulder and he began yelling at me, telling me how rude I am for ignoring him and what a terrible employee I am. He proceeded to begin swearing at me. I swatted the guy's hand away and told him to back off, "I don't work here." He didn't believe me and continued to yell. I finally got fed up and told him, if he doesn't stop and back off, get his hands away from me, that I would call the police and press charges for battery. He changed his mind and slinked out the front door without saying anything else. The next story is titled, Mistaken for a Butler? Sutler? I was invited to the wedding of a good friend. Now it is worth noting here that I feel the people do not dress appropriately for things like weddings and churches and so forth anymore, especially in my country where it can get very hot at times. I always say that a gentleman is naked without a tie, bow tie, cravat. For the wedding I dressed in a black double-breasted jacket with black trousers and shoes, a white dress shirt, and black bow tie. I noticed I was the only one there wearing a bow tie. I was about 27 at the time and had short and neatly combed hair, a neatly appointed beard and lightly waxed mustache. Having done several kinds of dancing and service, I'm always in the habit of standing erect with good posture and tend to raise my eyebrows politely and attentively at any woman or any man who has not confirmed himself to be a bounder. As the guests at the reception were coming back to their tables with their food, a lady tripped on the step and dropped her plate, scattering food across the floor. Taking the napkin from my table, I swiftly made my way to her and, genuflecting, began to wipe the back onto the miraculously unbroken plate with great facility. I folded the dirty side of the napkin inward, draped it over my arm in which I already held the plate of ruined food, used my free hand to collect the knife and fork, and stood up again, looking at the lady with an expression intended to say, "I'll get rid of all this for you. Is there anything else you need ere I go?" She thanked me profusely and went back to the serving tables for another dinner. On my way to deposit the items I had gathered, I was stopped several times, every time by a man, asking about wine and champagne and corkscrews, and whether I could bring them such things. The waiters had their own, completely different, uniform, and were all a good 8 years younger than I suppose I did look rather like a butler. The next story is titled, Lady, We're in California, Not Hawaii. When I was in my late teens, the early 20s and still in school, I worked at Brandy Melville in California. I could do multiple posts about my year and a half there. The main aspect I will be talking about in this story is our registers. Our registers were essentially Mac computers with a cash box underneath. The Macs were decorated with company stickers and stickers we handed out at the store. While I was there, a store in Hawaii closed and we ended up getting their Macs and adding a few registers. Their Macs were decorated with Hawaii stickers and one of them had one that said, "Bank of Hawaii, parking validated here." I had no idea until one day a woman got upset with me after I was done checking her and her daughter out because I didn't automatically validate their parking. The store was in an upscale area and parking validation doesn't exist. In almost every parking structure, unless marked free, one had to pay after parking or as they left the structure. Most people in our area have no idea how to get their parking validated because the concept simply does not exist where we live. She kept bugging me about it and I was so confused. I thought she was implying she parked in the back, where we girls usually did, and it was free. So I told her parking in the back was free but not to park there next time because it's for employees only and the meter maids will come around and ticket them. She got very upset and slammed her fist, saying that she parked at the Bank of Hawaii, and that she doesn't want to pay the ridiculous fees and that we shouldn't advertise parking validation if we refuse to give it. I looked at the back of the computer and realized the mix-up. I told her the story about how these computers aren't from here, but that didn't stop her from demanding parking validation at the Bank of Hawaii. I quite literally had to say, "We're in California, not Hawaii." That sent her over the edge and she grabbed her daughter and yelled that they would never shop there again. The next story is titled, "I'm literally in uniform. So I just got home and had this wonderful exchange. I'm in the US Navy and I came home to let the maintenance man into my apartment to work on something. He finishes his work and I wasn't gonna leave him unattended to go change, but I did take my blouse off to cool off. I see him out and remember that my lock was sticking and it was hard to get the key in. Rather than call him back over to fix it, I remember I have some gun oil and run back inside to grab it, return to my door, spritz, test it with a key, mission accomplished. As I'm about to go back inside I hear the dreaded, "Hey you. Come here." Knowing what's coming, I think great now I have to deal with this, so I turn around to be greeted by, you guessed it, Karen, haircut and all. The following is a summary of the exchange. K. What are you doing? M. Fixing the lock. It was sticking so I'm just lubing it up. K. Exactly. Why aren't you fixing mine? M. XUK. Just shut up, get over here, and fix my lock. I put in a maintenance request 2 days ago. M. Already not having any of this no. K. Excuse me? How dare you? I'll have you know I'm friends with the office ladies and your boss. I can get you fired for laziness. M. I doubt that. K. It's true. Now fix this lock or I'll have your job. M. No. I don't work here, idiot. I'm literally wearing my Navy uniform. I owe you nothing, and I'm going to go back inside now. K. Well you still should have helped me. M. Maybe had you been polite about it I would have, but certainly not now. I'm going inside and you can duck off, pound sand, and kick rocks in whichever order you feel like. I shut the door 5 minutes ago and she's still screaming and pounding on my door. Music. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.